Hi, my name's Gay Grossman. I'm one of the founders of adcy5.org. And I came about being a founder of adcy5.org when my daughter was diagnosed with that gene mutation. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is how using iPS cells has given us the ability to move science forward for our daughter who has the disease ADCY5 related dyskinesia, and also other children who have been diagnosed with this mutation on that gene. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of the 21 years we've had. Our daughter Lily is 21 years old. She was undiagnosed until she was 15 years old. And so I'm going to go over a little bit of what our journey has been like trying to find a diagnosis, and then using whole genome sequencing, which is what took us to the diagnosis, and the challenges that we've had since getting the diagnosis through sequencing, how stem cells has benefited us in this process, and then what we're doing now to use those stem cells to get us closer to a treatment for her children and other adults who have been diagnosed. So going back to 1997, which is when Lily was born, everything was going along pretty easily, and we'd been married for a while. With first pregnancy, we didn't have any issues, and Lily was born without any complications. We brought her home, and within the first year, we noticed that she was having some trouble. She wasn't pulling up in her crib. She kind of looked like she didn't prefer to sit up. She would kind of roll back in a controlled way, and she could hold a board book over her face and turn the pages. So when we saw her having the ability to do things like changing those pages, we figured that maybe there wasn't anything challenging her. But as time went on through that first year, we started noticing that she would fatigue quickly, especially when she was in warmer temperatures. And she seemed to have sensitivities to a lot of different food, and she had bad balance. She could stand on her feet and hold on and furniture walk, but she wasn't able to ever really let go. So because of all these challenges that she was having, our life quickly turned into something that looks like this. We started taking her all over the country to different facilities who might have some answers for why she was having these challenges. And by the time Lily was 8 years old, we had already taken her to over 40 specialists all over the country. We were getting to be pretty desperate as parents. We were looking at things with conventional medicine, holistic medicine. We saw some very alternative doctors. We really tried anything that physicians or any healthcare provider suggested to us. And as we started doing a lot of testing on Lily, we were given different diagnoses as time went on. When she was about a year and a half, it was the first time that we were able to convince physicians that we really wanted to get a brain scan and see what was happening inside. And when her brain scan came back normal, we were told that she probably had a very slight diagnosis of cerebral palsy. And we didn't have that diagnosis long, because as we moved on and she started to get older and she developed tremors that looked like seizures, but we found out weren't seizures with a normal EEG, but we moved on from those diagnoses pretty quickly into mitochondrial disease. And a lot of scientists and researchers today will tell you that perhaps ADCY5 related dyskinesia is in fact a mitochondrial disease. But back in the late 90s, mitochondrial disease could not be made as specific as it can be today with the different genes that we're able to identify. But we didn't really have a treatment for Lily other than giving her your typical mitochondrial disease cocktail. And that was basically to keep her healthy, to keep her immune system up, and the most important symptom that we were trying to alleviate for her was the tremors that she would have. And when she was a baby, this was just mostly during, a little bit during the night. It wasn't very hard, and it wasn't very often. But as she started to get older and her body started to get bigger, these tremors continued to escalate in severity and also frequency. So we tried all kinds of different things as we were going around the country meeting these doctors. We tried different medications, whether they were supplements or prescription. We tried epilepsy medications to try to help alleviate the movements that she was having. We took her off of wheat, corn, soy, dairy, and sugar. And some of these things did make a difference a little bit, but they still did not stop the movements that she was having during the day and into the evening and nighttime. We even went to the extreme of having things in our home tested because we couldn't really pinpoint where this trouble was coming from. Even through all the testing that we were done with Lily, everything was coming back with normal results. So as she was getting older, this picture shows her in about kindergarten. She was able to walk with a walker. It was difficult for her, and she was still having a hard time keeping up. Her muscle weakness was pretty severe. The involuntary movements continued, and we started having her use a laptop in school rather than having to struggle with reading and writing. She was always cognitively typical, always did well in school, but this physical challenge that she had with her balance and her strengths and the tremors that she had just, really was prominent in her life. So as you can imagine, we went through a variety of testing with her, and it started with a simple blood test and quickly escalated into more invasive testing, things like nerve conduction testing, muscle biopsies, nerve biopsies, skin biopsies, MRIs every few years, and every single test that we put Lily through would come back normal. And, it was obvious at this time that something was not right and that these challenges were not going to go away. And as a matter of fact, they were just getting worse as she got older. So as she got older, and she was probably about in about 6th or 7th grade, we were really in a holding pattern because nothing was giving us clues about what could be wrong. And, she wasn't gaining ground, she wasn't really losing ground, but she was up constantly through the night. And if she was up, 5 to 6 times a night, that was actually a good night for us. And a lot of people ask us, what were those nights like? And it's kind of, I guess you can think about when your child has the flu and they're up all night and you do it for maybe two nights and then things seem to get better. But for us, she was up with these tremors, and we call them tremors, but they're really more like seizures. And she was up with these, like I said, on a good night, 5 to 6 times a night. And sometimes as they would progress and as she would get more tired, the severity of them would increase. And sometimes she would be up every 5 minutes. When she would wake up in pain, she was aware and, just thrashing in pain with these movements. So a lot of times it happened during the daytime, but it definitely happened every night for 15 years. And it was a very difficult time for all of us because obviously our whole household was up with her trying to alleviate the misery for her. IVIG treatments, and that seemed to help a lot, but it never made them go away. And again, the diet changing helped, but it never made things go away. She would be put into the hospital a couple times throughout the year, and mostly that would be because the tremors would get so bad that she just couldn't sleep, and she would be up so many nights that the more she was up, the worse the tremors got, and the worse the tremors got, the more she was up. So we would get in these vicious cycles, and there was just really no way to break it. And so we would admit her to the hospital, and they would give her something to actually put her to sleep. And as her body would rest, it would kind of reset itself. But this was, this was a couple times a year that we would have to do this. She'd also have to be hospitalized if she got any kind of flu. She just didn't seem to have the reserve to be able to fight something like that. And we asked about whole genome sequencing when she went to have her muscle and nerve biopsy in 2007. But as you might remember, we didn't really know what to do with results then. And some people would argue that even today we don't know what to do with a lot of the results with whole genome sequencing, but we just wanted to know, we figured that was the best way that we could find an answer for her with a diagnosis. So through this time, we just tried to accommodate for her and make things as easy as we could for her in school. And we decided when she was going into middle school to get her a power chair so that she could keep up and change classes and physically keep up with her peers, just moving about school. I think that it's important to note that her weakness probably increased significantly when she got the power chair because of her sitting and not using a walker. But at that time, we didn't know what Lily's future held, and her success was found through school. And so we felt that providing her with that, even though it would perhaps cause more limitations in her future, it was important for us to feel that success that she could through school. The other thing that we did was we started keeping track on our own of the sleeping disturbances. And this slide is often used by some of the researchers who speak about ABCY5 related dyskinesia. And this is, every dot on there is showing you a time that Lily has gotten up at night. And this is over a year and a half of nights. And what we did was we found an app on our iPad, and it's actually a pregnancy app for contractions. And what we would do is every time she would awaken, we would hit the button when we leave our room and go into her room and help her. And once she got settled back to sleep, we would go back into our room and turn it off. So we were able to see where these pockets were of when she was sleeping really badly and when she was just sleeping simply badly. But it was really the first time that anyone had collected any kind of data. And we just decided as a family we needed to start collecting data so we could help the researchers see the severity of the awakenings at night. So we were fortunate enough to be able to take part in the Idiopathic Diseases of Man study that was run by Scripps Translational Science Institute. And this is when Lily was 15 years old. She was luckily admitted into this study, and we were able to get the results from this. But when we were going through it, we went through another study at the same time, which was the emotional aspect of having your whole genome sequenced. And I specifically remember one of the questions that they asked Lily when we had already had our blood drawn and we were waiting for the results. And one of the questions that the researchers wanted to know was, what if something really bad was found and something that was terminal and that they could do nothing about? And Lily was never afraid of that. And actually, I wasn't either. I think it's important for physicians to know who have the ability to offer whole genome sequencing to families that actually finding out bad news like that is something that you can process and you can move forward with, but not having a diagnosis is actually more difficult. And Lily's biggest fear of going through this process and then not having any diagnosis at the end, that was actually more upsetting to her to think about than getting something back that would be, something someone would consider to be very challenging. So when we did get the results back from the whole genome sequencing, we were given 2 genes that had mutations on them. One is the ADCY5 gene, and the other is the DOC3 gene. And one, they told us the ADCY5 gene they could possibly do something about. The DOC3 gene was something that they didn't have any data on as of yet, and both of these genes are responsible for balance and coordination, and they've been described to me as kind of the gears on a bike, and if the gears don't work, the whole bike's not going to go. So when we were given this information, we were also told that she would have a normal life expectancy, which that was big news to us because that was not something that we were not given that before she had the diagnosis. So the first thing that we did was we were able to take Lily off of all of her seizure medications, which obviously you can imagine would be debilitating during the day as they made her tired, and they just kind of made things a little bit better with the sleeping, but they never alleviated everything fully. So we were able to start a drug called Diamox, and that enabled Lily to sleep for about 9 days in a row, 9 nights. And we had not slept that, we hadn't slept a full night in 15 years. So that was absolutely life-changing. After the 9 days and nights, we started seeing the sleep fall away and the tremors were coming back. And we were able to adjust the medication enough, and we've also added tetrabenazine, and Lily now sleeps all night. She doesn't have any issues. Sometimes stress will bring things back for a week, but she quickly gets back on track, and we've been able to, change things pretty significantly for her. So a lot of people have said to us, well, she's still in a wheelchair, and what's the benefit? But I can tell you that sleeping and being able to sleep all night is a huge benefit and life-changing. And you'd think being in a wheelchair is bad. It's actually worse if you can't sleep at night. So just to let you know how Lily's life changed, she was able to, we could take her and stay in a hotel. As you can imagine, we couldn't stay in a hotel before with her being up all night crying. And we took her to Paris and London for her graduation, Christmas, birthday combination gift. And we were able to stay in a hotel there with her, and she could see all kinds of beautiful art that she loves, and she was really able to experience those cities fully. She also is now away at college, and although she needs 24/7 care, she is, as I've explained, cognitively typical, and she's been able to do things that we never imagined that she would be able to do. So after this diagnosis, we shared our story with a lot of different places that asked us to, and the main reason that we share our story so much is that we want to give other families hope, and we want people to understand what we went through and what other families might be enduring, and they don't know that they have this mutation. And if anybody can go online and Google ADCY5, they will find us and they can connect with us quickly, and we can hopefully get them in contact with a specialist who can help them with the sleep issues. And we can also let them know the science that we're doing. So now on to other things. You get your diagnosis and you think your odyssey's over, and actually you're just beginning a whole new journey, because now you have to figure out what to do with that information that you have. So after sequencing, what we did was we kind of assessed where Lily was, and with the sleeping, everything was much better, but whole genome sequencing doesn't always give you a treatment. It might give you the answer, it might give you some ideas, but it might not give you the answers that you need to completely be relieved of your diagnosis. And even though everything is better for Lily, a lot of things are better, there's still things that she has to endure and the reason that we want to continue the science. She still gets a monthly IVIG treatment, which is an infusion that is actually 10 hours long. She has it 5 hours on one day and 5 hours on the next. She takes an orphan drug every day that's twice a day. It's over $6,000 a month. She has 24/7 care, and she, continues to be reliant on wheelchairs and other durable medical equipment, and things that help her get through her day. So what we've done is we've started adcy5.org, and we did that shortly after diagnosis. And the main purpose of that is to support other families. We also want to be able to provide a place for researchers and clinicians to go if they have a diagnosis or interested in the science. We want to be able to give them a place to look and see what's happening and be able to connect with each other. And what we did as a family is we put all this together so that we can make it as easy as possible for researchers and clinicians to get the information, use the information in order to help other parents. So we're working together to really leverage technology and put things together ourselves so that we can help the researchers do what they do best and what we don't know how to do as parents. So we have put together a family meeting where we were able to get clinicians and researchers together in one room, and we could put 7 different families in front of them one at a time, and they could see them one after the other and compare and contrast and take notes. And we've been able to work with these clinicians to put together different ideas so that we can start doing a natural history study and other science in order to move toward treatment. So when the people that we worked with before Lily was diagnosed, it was mostly institutions around the country. Now the connections that we have are much more people who are in the science field and technology and are doing things that are moving towards science and treatment. We share our story with anyone who will listen to us speak, and I do a lot of public speaking, and I will speak to anyone from a local organization who's just interested in science and what's happening today to the different universities in our area and different corporations who are involved in science, just to let them know the benefits that we've had by learning about science, including people who work with science in our disease. So through this, Lily was the first one to be diagnosed with the mutation that encompassed her whole body. And since then, we've been able to connect with over 80 families that have since gotten the same diagnosis that Lily has. And in the papers, there are over 300 people who have been identified in different databases. And because this is such a small population, we have taken it upon ourselves to put together the science and really try to make some breakthroughs with this. And one of the things that we've been doing is the iPSC project. And we were the first ones as a small rare disease organization to put together a stem cell project for the ultra rare disease community. We've been able to get 13 lines of patients who have the actual ADCY5 mutation, and also 31 parents and siblings who are not affected by the mutation. And these cells are available through Coriell. And what this means is that scientists have access to these at a much lower price, and they're available all over the world. And the impact that we have for the scientists is if we can provide these iPSCs to them, rather than saying to them we can provide blood or skin and then they in turn have to turn them into these stem cells, it completely lowers the price for these scientists. They now can get them as stem cell lines. They know that they can get more than one stem cell line to compare them. We have been able to take this project and offer the results to scientists so that they can abbreviate the work and the funding that they need to move the project forward. We're also able to offer this with no IP reachback conditions, so they can go ahead and do the work and get credit for what they come up with. And what this does is it enables the true precision medicine effort. It's taking the iPSCs of these patients and giving the scientists the resources that they need to move forward toward a treatment. So the next step that we're taking as a foundation is reaching out to different scientists and letting them know that these stem cell lines are available. We're also putting together a natural history study so that we can have retrospective and prospective data on all these patients, and using different sensors so that we can collect the information for patients who are still not sleeping well at night, and educating different people who go to conferences about ADCY5 related dyskinesia, and just letting them know about the projects that we have put together and that we have available and that they can participate in. And then we're also working to identify funding, and we are funding a researcher right now to continue his work so that we make sure that the treatment is coming faster than it might have if we weren't putting these things together. So we've been able to abbreviate the time and also the money for these researchers. They can just get right down to work with the iPSC cells. So these are our next steps as an organization of what we plan to do with these cells that we were able to get. We're going to be differentiating them, doing RNA sequencing, and reviewing different proposals for model organisms. And then, as I discussed, doing the natural history study so that we can collect as much information as we can about the disease so that we can forward that on to researchers so that they can utilize the information. There are a lot of benefits to having these stem cells. It's been able to help us attract different researchers because we already have this tool for them to use. And we're seeing benefits already. Many of you have seen the movie with John Travolta about the boy in the bubble. And, that was something that was a debilitating disease in the past. And now, if that mutation is shown to be present for a newborn baby, they can get the treatment, and they have a tough couple of years of building that immune system, but once they build it, they're cured from the disease. And this is the kind of thing that we have in our minds for the future for Lily and for other children and adults who have been diagnosed with ADCY5 related dyskinesia. So people always ask, where is Lily now and what is she doing? She's a senior in college. She goes to Whittier College up by Los Angeles. It's a small liberal arts school, easy to get around because of the nice small campus. And it's been great for Lily to take part in the campus. She's majoring in political science and will have a minor in English. And she's very involved in the student body. She was in the student senate. She was a member of a sorority, and she is now a football and basketball cheerleader. So she is, very happy there and very interested in the science. And when we have conference calls, she wants to be on the call too, listening to hear what's happening. And it gives her hope, and it lets her know that she is a pioneer in the science, and that everything that we put together as an organization, we put together for her, will someday affect positively other people who are affected with not only her mutation, but other mutations, because we believe that anything that we're learning about, through using these stem cells will somehow benefit everybody in rare disease. And that is our goal, is to move treatment forward for everybody. If you're interested in contacting me about questions, my email is ggrossman@adcy5.org. And you can also either Google Lily or myself and read a lot of different stories about our family and what we have accomplished and what we hope to accomplish. And if you have any questions, then I welcome you to email me at any time and I will get back to you. But thank you so much for your time and good luck with the research that you plan to do. Bye.